Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Mnemonic Tutor. Today we have a budget gaming PC build based on the AMD Ryzen 5 2400G. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. So what we have here is both the AMD Ryzen 5 2400G APU as well as the Corsair Vengeance RAM that I used in this build. So APU stands for Accelerated Processing Unit. It's AMD's term for their combined CPU and GPU chip. So instead of having a regular processor plus a discrete GPU separate, they put them both on the same chip. The really cool thing about these Ryzen 5 APUs is they fit in a standard AM4 socket, which means you don't need to get a special motherboard to hold this APU. So this is being used in the build here, and you'll see it later on when we unbox it. The Corsair Vengeance RAM, the reason this RAM was used was because the APU has both CPU and GPU, they share system memory. What that means is that we need to have the fastest memory available so that they can both use it. Whereas in a typical computer, you will have a CPU that has system RAM running at a certain speed, and then you have a GPU, usually with GDDR5, that is very fast. In this case, we don't have that, so we need the fastest RAM we can get that works with both the CPU and the GPU at the same time. In this case, it's 3200 megahertz RAM. It actually is a 2666 megahertz RAM, but you overclock it with the motherboard to 3200 and it runs perfectly. So this is amazing RAM. Here's the motherboard I use for this build. It's I would just say a plain gaming motherboard, nothing special, $99. It's the Gigabyte AB350N gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. The reason I picked this motherboard is actually pretty simple. When AMD sent these out to press reviewers, this was part of the press kit, so at least it signaled to me that it would be a good board that was already compatible with the APU. So I went ahead and picked it, and I'm glad I did because it was very easy to set up. It was able to boot right away with the APU without a firmware update. Then I applied a firmware update to fully unlock all the capabilities of the APU. RAM went in very easily, the cooler went on it very easily. Just overall a very easy motherboard to set up, configure, install, and get the APU working on. So from that perspective, I recommend it. Obviously, it's not a high-end gaming motherboard with all kinds of options to overclock, but it does have overclocking available in the actual BIOS, so you can overclock if you want to. But it's a very simplified overclock. It's not like the same as one of the high-end motherboards. So for this build, it was actually perfect because we are just using base clock speeds on it, at least for now. It also has the option to add a discrete GPU later should I decide to, but for now we don't need it. All we're going to do is run it in its current configuration. So here's the power supply I decided to use for this build. It's a 500 watt power supply from Corsair, a VS500. It's 80 plus certified, which means it's pretty efficient. The reason I went with 500 watts was I wanted a little bit of overhead so that I could go ahead and add a discrete GPU down the road should I decide to. And the reason I went with this model was because it was designed to work well with the Corsair Obsidian case that I bought, which you'll see later on in the video. Let's go ahead and unbox the PSU so you can see what it looks like. We'll pop open the box here. It opens from the right hand side, and inside you can see it's very neatly packed with a nice foam cover, a little bit of an instruction manual or warranty reference card, and then this is the actual power cable goes to the wall. You can see it has quite a few connectors for connecting a whole bunch of things. They packed it nicely in bubble wrap so that it doesn't get scratched or damaged in transit. Let's see if we can get this off here relatively easily at least. And here it is, plain black with a pretty sizable fan here on the bottom. And again, there's a vent on the bottom of the Corsair case I ordered, so this thing actually works perfectly and aligns to where it's pulling in air from the bottom of the case. On the side, it says Corsair VS500, nothing special. Here's the back of it with an open grate to let air flow and a power switch. I'll let you guys take a look here at the bottom. This is just the standard sticker with information about what the power supply is and has. And another sticker with actually this is the same side, so, well, the other side's the same, either way. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Corsair 3200 megahertz RAM I bought. Here's what it looks like, nifty little box. You can see in the back and see the actual stickers that are on the RAM slot. Let's go ahead and pop this bad boy open. We're going to need a knife to cut open the top here, and then open the tab and go ahead and pull it out. Here are these two beautiful sticks. Nothing fancy, no LEDs here, just plain black heat spreaders. There's, it says Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4. Let me go ahead and pop open this thing here so you can get a closer look at one of the sticks. Again, nothing special, just this is what it looks like. Pretty nice sticks. I guess they get rid of heat pretty easily. I don't know. But again, they were recommended for this particular setup, and I believe these are the exact sticks that came in the press kit as well, if I'm not mistaken. They may not be. I may have gotten them from the AMD approved RAM list, but either way, they're just standard RAM, nothing special. It's exactly what was recommended for this build, so I went ahead and threw it in here. Now we'll get into unboxing the actual motherboard itself. So you just open it from the front here. It flips open like a little clamshell type thing. Once you get it open, voila, you have an electrostatic bag, so everything's packaged pretty nicely to make sure it doesn't get damaged. This foam here also protects it. You lift up this foam and you get, first of all here, you have a little Wi-Fi antenna that connects directly to the motherboard. So it has Wi-Fi built into it, hence the name. This is pretty cool if you don't have a wired connection. Here are some SATA connectors for the hard drives to connect straight to the motherboard. And here's the rear I/O panel that slides into the case. So also pretty good. You get a manual that has, pretty, whatever information you need inside of it, along with some driver CDs, which I think is kind of funny because nowadays most people don't even have a CD-ROM drive on their PC. I certainly didn't. I had to move drivers via USB. But anyway, the manual has all the information you need in terms of what the pin headers are, what you can do in the BIOS, how to configure things, all that kind of good stuff. So let's go ahead and take the motherboard out of the electrostatic bag so you guys can get a closer look at what it looks like. It's a mini ITX board, so as you can see, it's very small. It actually fits in my hand like quite perfectly, but I do have rather large hands. But either way, it fits pretty good. And now we'll go ahead and take a look at the Ryzen APU. So you're going to need a knife to open up the box here. We'll go ahead and flip the lid open, and right away you can see the giant cooler. We'll pull out the actual CPU. It has a nice little sticker there that you can stick on your PC, which I never do. Open up this little box and pull out the tray so you guys can get a little bit of a better look at it. But this is essentially a socket AM4, so a standard AMD Ryzen socket. And, the box comes with a little bit of documentation in it. Here's this card that I don't even know what it's for. Can't read it, so throw it back in the box. But the CPU comes packaged pretty well here. It's not going to get damaged in transit, at least as far as I can tell. Hold it up a little closer here to the camera so you guys can get a better view of it. I apologize for the glare, and here's the little sticker it comes with, which says Ryzen 5, so that's pretty cool. Set it aside and pull out the cooler itself. This is a Ryzen, I think it's called a Stealth Spire or a Spire Stealth. It's the smaller of the Spire coolers. It's already been you can tell here the little gray in the middle has already been had heat spreading material pre-applied to it, which is pretty cool. You don't have to buy any, but the fan, spins freely. It works. I mean, I guess that's the best way to put it. It works fine. So here's the actual motherboard in the middle there. You can see the AM4 socket. So let's go ahead and pop this little bad boy open and see if we can seat this thing without too much trouble. We'll pop open the little retainer clip here, and once you do that, you go ahead and pull the processor out, and the processor has a little triangle in one of the corners, and that triangle aligns with the actual there's a triangle on the motherboard socket itself. So you can see here it's on the bottom left as I'm holding, well, now I'm turning it sideways, but as I was holding it. And then on the motherboard it's on the upper left. So again, here you're going to have me seat it right in there, and just be careful not to touch the top too much with your fingers. If you do, you can just clean it with some alcohol. We'll go ahead and lower the retaining clip, and that's it. The processor is now installed. So now all you have to do is remove the what would be retaining clips for a different type of cooler. We're not going to be using those since we're using the stock Ryzen Stealth Spire or whatever it's called cooler. We remove these, and then the cooler actually screws right back into those same holes. that we pull the screws out of. So we'll just remove these really quick, and then we will grab the fan and align it on top and go ahead and make sure it's seated well. So, oh, the screw's still a little bit in there. Let's get it out. All right, we're clear. Now we just got to grab the actual CPU fan. Here we go. And one thing you have to make sure of is that you can see here there's a little AMD logo that protrudes to the left in the picture. If you mount the fan the other way with it protruding to the right, the RAM will not actually fit. It will hit, especially if it has a big heat spreader like the Corsair ones I bought do. So you have to make sure that AMD faces over to the left, away from the RAM slot, so that you can get it to the RAM to seat correctly. So now we'll go ahead and just screw down the four corners of the fan. Again, the heat spreading material is already applied to the bottom of the heat sink that the fan is attached to, so you don't have to worry about that. If you do decide at some point to get a better fan or a liquid cooling system or something, obviously you're going to have to clean the top of the processor off and reapply the heat spreading material. But for now, it's fine. So we went ahead and put the fan in, screwed them in. We're just going to give one final snug tighten to all four corners. Pay attention not to over tighten. You don't need to crank these things down. Just get them to where they're snug on all four corners. You can feel the resistance and you're good. It's mounted. Then we're going to go ahead and connect the CPU fan to the CPU fan header on this motherboard. There's only one CPU fan header, and it's right here. You can see where I'm attaching it to, so you're good to go. Later on, you'll see when I attach the case fan that there is only one case fan or sys fan header on this motherboard. So my case actually had two fans, and I needed to, and it only had one header, so I ended up having to order a splitter later and add it. It's not in this video, but you'll see it later on when I put it together. So now we're going to go ahead and stick the RAM in. It only goes one way. There's a little slot that's off center from the RAM on the RAM bottom of the RAM chip, so you can make sure you're putting it in the right way. You just slide it in on the bottom end first, get that to seat, and then push the top end down, and that little red tab will snap in to the side of the RAM chip, and it'll hold it down. So as you can see here, it's a very snug and perfect fit, no wobble room, and everything went together very well. You can actually see how small the whole thing is put together. So here we have the Corsair Obsidian 250D case that I bought. I'm sorry for the camera angle here. You can see some of my cubes, but it doesn't fit in the frame. You saw the side where I have a mesh side. Here's a glass top, or I think it's plastic, acrylic, whatever. But the point is, you can see inside. So if you want to run lights in there, you can. And here's the other mesh side. And actually, out of this mesh side, there's a fan already there to go ahead and expel hot air from the side of the case. So there's another fan in the front that you can't see, but it pulls air in. And here on the bottom is this little slot I'm touching, then about to remove the filter to. This is where the CPU sits, and the fan on the CPU faces down, or in this case, it would be facing up in the grate, but it's facing down, and it's pulling air up in from the bottom of the case, which is cool air, and pulling it into the CPU. And then it vents out the back. So it works pretty well. Here's what the front of the case looks like. It's brushed aluminum. It has two USB 3.0 ports and a mic and headphone jack for you to plug in your headset to. So it's pretty well stocked. Then the back of it is fairly standard. You've got that big hole in the middle is for your I/O port. To the right, you've got a space for a full-size dual height GPU. The bottom right is where the power supply goes. I'll go ahead and remove the thumb screws here. And this is, this little plate comes off, and then the plate itself mounts with screws directly to the power supply unit, and then it slides in and the thumb screws hold it in place. Over here on the bottom left is where the hard drives go. I'll remove these 4 thumb screws and then pull the little grate off. And then inside, when they ship it, there's a little box with all the parts that go to the it's basically a bunch of screws you use to connect everything to the case, the motherboard screws, the hard drive screws. Although I will say the hard drive slots on this thing are toolless. You'll see here when I remove this cardboard box that it's actually being held in by the little pins or tabs that stick out from the plastic that make the hard drive cage itself toolless. But if you wanted to, there are some holes that you can actually screw in and mount it. I don't want to say permanently because I think it's permanent either way, but just so that it doesn't fall out for some reason. I don't know. That's just the way they designed it. They give you some zip ties to help with cable management, and here are all the little screws that go to various things. Here are some more screws that go to the hard drives and whatnot, and then there's the other screws for mounting the motherboard to the actual standoff. So this thing already has pre-configured standoffs for a mini ITX board. You'll see that when we take it apart a little more, but it's already there. And then we'll slide this hard drive tray back in. You can see on the top you have two small hard drive trays for laptop 2.5-inch size, and on the bottom you have two full-size 3.5-inch standard computer hard drive slots. I will go ahead and remove the thumb screws now for the left panel. So the cool thing is you can actually remove all, when I say all panels, I mean the left, the right, and the top panel. So it helps when you're assembling it because you can get your hands in through every angle. Some cases usually only let you take off, like let's say the two sides, and that's okay because you still have a lot of room, but this one actually lets you get in through all angles. Another thing you'll see, because we're looking straight down through the back, is you can see a big fan on the other side. That's actually the front of the case. That's the fan I was telling you about. That's the intake fan. And the motherboard only has one sys fan header, so I wasn't able to hook up that big fan, only the side fan, until later on I ordered the fan splitter. Now they're both hooked up and they work very well. So here we're going to go ahead and remove the top panel. And again, it's just standard thumb screws. This thing is almost a toolless design. You do need tools to actually secure the power supply to the grate, and you'll see that a little bit later. But I think that's about it. I think that's the only, oh, and to screw the motherboard down to the standoffs, obviously. You'll need one for that too. So here's a header for a cable to connect the side fan to the motherboard. So that way anytime the PC is on, it can control that fan. These other cables you see me untying right now are just the standard connectors for, I believe it's the sound on the front as well as the USB 3.0 headers. So, and then these twisted ones over in my right hand, this one right here is the USB, and the one in my left hands are the USB and sound, and the ones that I'm messing with now, the twisted ones, are the standard ones you connect to for the power switch, the LED light, the reset switch, all the standard things that you would connect your case to the motherboard, primarily for the purposes of turning the thing on and off. I don't know why at this point we have all those cables anymore. A lot of them are leftovers, but anyway, they're here. So we'll go ahead and untie the cables coming out of the power supply here. There's a whole lot of cables on this thing. I didn't realize there were that many. I guess with 500 watts, it kind of makes sense. The cool thing is they do have some mesh sheaths around the cables, so they look a lot neater and they go in a lot better. So I'm going to lay down this little cloth here because I'm going to go ahead and mount the grill from the back of the case to the back end of this PSU, and I just don't want it to scratch the case from the inside. So again, this is a really high quality case. The paint job is really good and it's really nice, and unfortunately everything is metal, and metal on metal scrapes. So that's the reason I laid the little cloth down. But you'll see here I got the little grate. I've got to fish out the little screws that go into the power supply, and then we'll go ahead and attach that. Right now I'm trying to figure out which way the actual grate attaches, just because it has different ways you can attach it to the back of the case, as well as different hole layouts around the perimeter. So you can put in several different kinds of power supplies, right, depending on where the hole layout's here, right? So if you're looking at this power supply from the top, you can see that the bottom two screws are in the far corners, but the top two are not. The top left one is offset by about 1 inch inward, and the one on the top right is down and in a slight bit. So here you see when you lay the grate down, it actually aligns perfectly. All the holes do, so you can go ahead and put the screws in now to attach it. And then when you slide it in, you'll see some additional holes down there on the bottom left and bottom right that are part of the grate, that are not part of the PSU, and those are the ones that are used to attach the grate itself to the back of the case. So when you put this power supply in, you're not actually going to mount the power supply to the case itself. The power supply is only going to be mounted to this grate that you see me screwing in right now. Then you'll um, then you'll mount the grate itself via the thumb screws you saw me undo a couple of minutes ago. Via those, that grate will be locked into the back of the case. So it's pretty ingenious. It allows you to go ahead and remove the power supply fairly easily without having to disassemble the entire case. You could just disconnect it from its headers by opening only a side case, taking off the thumb screws and pulling it out the back. And that's assuming it, ever went bad or needed repair or for whatever reason, I guess. So let's go ahead and get this thing screwed in here. You get a nice close view of my pores there. I shot this video I think I shot it in 4K, and I'm downsampling it to 1080p, so you'll see some pretty good detail on all the parts of this build. By the way, while we're assembling this, I just want to let you guys know I have put together a parts list for this PC build, and I've put it in the video notes, or I forget what they're called on YouTube, not the comments, but the place where you put description. There you go. They're in the video description. So I have all the pieces I put in here. There's the case, the power supply, the motherboard, the APU, the RAM, the SSD, and the hard drive. I don't have a lot of video of putting in the SSD and the hard drive. You'll see it. You'll see me do it here, just off to the side in kind of passing, but I really didn't go into too much detail there because that's pretty standard and pretty easy to do. Here's the connector to connect the power supply to the motherboard. So just showing you guys that it has a full, it works for AMD and Intel. So we'll go ahead and pull those cables through and then secure the power supply through the back. Going back to what I was saying a few seconds ago, though, I will have the full part list in the video description, as well as links to where you can buy all the pieces on Amazon. I built this entire PC from Amazon. I went and looked at Newegg. I went and looked at a bunch of different websites, B&H and a couple others, and the prices were all the same. The processor was $169 no matter where you ordered it. The motherboard ranged from $99 to I think I want to say $115 or $120. But I'm a Prime subscriber to Amazon, so I get everything in 2 days, free shipping. So I went ahead and put in the order for all the pieces, and it all arrived in 2 days. So all those links will be in the description. They are affiliate links, so if you do buy through those, I appreciate it. You're supporting myself and the channel and helping to get more cool videos like this. So thanks a lot if you buy from those links and help us out. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and put the thumb screws in here to secure the power supply in finally. And again, it's just 2 thumb screws on the left and right. And then we'll get this thing ready to go ahead and start putting in the back panel. So here we're going to go ahead and put in the back panel, the I/O panel for the motherboard. It snaps in pretty much, so you just have to be very careful you don't bend any of the metal on the back of the case or the I/O panel itself. So just use plenty of force, but put hands on both sides, the outside and the inside. The outside is keeping the metal of the case from bending, and the inside is pushing the actual I/O panel. It has some little bumps all around the perimeter, the I/O panel does, that kind of slide in and stick to the back of the case. So pretty simple. Just like I said, be careful when you do it. Don't over push, or you could either bend the case or the I/O panel, which is not impossible to recover from, but it kind of sucks because then you're gonna have kinks. So then you go ahead and lower the motherboard in, and you're gonna align all of the ports that are on the left side of the motherboard with the I/O panel itself. On this particular motherboard, it's easiest to align the actual Wi-Fi, the 2 little Wi-Fi posts, and then set it down. And then you will be able to see here that the motherboard has 4, again, because it's mini ITX, it's very small. It only has 4 places to screw it into the case from. The case already has the standoffs in the 4 locations for the Mini ITX motherboard form factor. So you just take 4 of the screws that came with the case and you put them in and screw it down. So for the sake of expediency, we're going to go ahead and fast forward the next couple of minutes. We're already at 25 minutes and I'm trying to keep this thing under 30 so that it's easily watchable. So the next couple of minutes are just going to be a fast forward of me connecting all the cables. You see me connecting the system fan header, the USB 3.0, the sound, that was the CPU power cable. Um, let's see, here are the headers for the case itself that connect into the motherboard. That's the 3.5. This is the SSD, 3.5 again. I'm going to go ahead and kind of slide them in through the back here and then connect them up both through the power and through the SATA connectors. Now I'll use the zip ties to do a little bit of cable management here to get it, to look somewhat neat. And I'm doing a little bit of more cable management underneath that lip that you can't see underneath here on the towards the right. We're going to go ahead and start connecting some power cables and some other cables here just to kind of test that this thing actually works. Connect a mouse and a keyboard over here to the front. I've now powered it on. You can see the fans are spinning, both the CPU and the system fan, and then it has these red LEDs that are powered on there. This, of course, is now, the computer is now booted. There were no beeps, no errors. Like I said, it booted right up, which was amazing because I had read some horror stories about people who were trying to first boot these systems again because they're brand new. A lot of these motherboards, even the existing AM4 motherboards, needed BIOS updates to be able to support this new Vega APU thing. So turns out this motherboard was able to boot it just fine. Now, I will tell you that a lot of the stuff, not that it didn't work, but it wasn't working at full efficiency and it wasn't working correctly. So but it was able to boot, and you could see the BIOS screen, and I was able to go ahead and load Windows. Once I loaded Windows, I loaded Gigabyte's software on there, and then here you can see me sticking in the USB stick that has Windows on it. I was able to load Windows. I loaded Gigabyte's motherboard software on there, and then I downloaded all the drivers for everything. I also went into the BIOS later and bumped the RAM up from 2666 to 3200 megahertz. It overclocked it beautifully, no problems, no beeps, no overheating, no anything. I mean, it just worked, right? So that's kind of what you want with a build like this. You can change the colors of those LEDs. Right now they're red, and I kind of left them like that because again, I don't really mess with that kind of stuff. I'm not, I know a lot of people like to have all these fancy lights, and hey, you know what? More power to you. That's cool. It's kind of it's your thing. Awesome, but for me, I'm just building it because I want to use it to play games and do some video editing and a couple other things. So I left the LEDs red, but I noticed that in the Gigabyte software, you can actually go in there and change not only the colors, right? There's a bunch of different colors. It's RGB, right? So you can pick any color you want, but you can also change it to where it pulses, in different patterns. You can connect it to like your music if you're listening to like Spotify. It'll pulse, with the music. It's kind of cool, again, not my thing, but if you're into that kind of thing, it works and it's pretty cool. So anyway, it is what it is. Everything booted up fine. Had no issues. I left it open like this running for a couple of hours, so you won't see me put this back together in this video, but all I did after this literally was put the side panels back in, the top panel back on, and then close everything up. Other than that, that's it. This is pretty much the entire build of the thing, of the PC. So I, it is what it is. I've played a little bit on it. I haven't really. I'll probably do another review with some actual game specs on it. But that's pretty much it for the actual build video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like this video, comment on it, and subscribe to the channel. You can also hit the bell if you want notifications for when I put up new videos. You can support this channel on Patreon at patreon.com/mnemotictutor. You can also support us by buying the various components for this build through the Amazon links in the description. Don't forget to stay connected through Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Mnemonic Tutor. You can also catch me streaming most days on Twitch or Mixer at mnemonic tutor, mainly through Twitch. Other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.